Hi, I'm Ben, and this is We're Done Pretending, a Reflective Rebels podcast. If your days define you instead of the other way around, if you're doing everything for everyone else whilst drifting through your own existence, then this is for you. Today, with me on the sofa is someone who's putting down their mask to share what's actually happening in their life. Not the polished LinkedIn version, but the honest truth about struggle and joy and mess and meaning. By listening, I hope you'll feel less alone in whatever you're going through. Maybe learn something about yourself and find the courage to make changes that feel good. Because we want more than just coping. We want a life that feels like ours. Let's listen to a fellow human. Let's start with just something slightly random and go with, what do you like to do when it's raining?
Sulk about not climbing. Raining, I'll be scanning my old slides or reading a book, listening to some music, or catching up on the work I didn't get done because I was out climbing the other evening.
So that's 2 mentions of climbing already. I think there might be a theme here for the podcast.
I'm not obsessed, honest.
You're not?
No, not at all.
I think you're protesting too much. Let's talk about the music then. So if it's a rainy day and you're putting some music on, tell us about what you're listening to.
It's my Spotify playlist.
Your own curated one?
Yeah. It's only 30 hours long. It's everything I like listening to. So it could be anything from David Bowie to Mizgorski to the Chieftains to some right old Irish fiddle music. Everything, especially fusions. So really eclectic listening. Oh, yeah, just variety.
How's that come about? Do you sit there for hours curating the perfect playlist?
No.
Are you chucking stuff on when you hear a song you like?
Just chucking stuff on. But that was a lockdown thing. You know,
okay.
When I was bored one weekend and I thought, right, what's this Spotify malarkey? I'd been listening to it, but I'd never done anything but press a playlist or a selection. So I just gathered all of my own bits and pieces together that I liked and discovered there were rather a lot of them.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was a bit of a random weekend that. Just, and what was that one? Like digging back through all the Bowie stuff and the Who and some of the folky stuff I like. Yeah, that was good.
So where did that love of music come from? Take us back. I guess you weren't listening on Spotify.
Not then, no. It was pieces of vinyl. The embarrassing thing is the very first record I get, and this is a real cringe.
We're getting the juicy stuff now.
This is a real cringe. Jennifer Eccles. I love Jennifer Eccles.
Tell us about. So, did you buy? You bought that vinyl.
That was the 7-inch single.
Tell us about that shopping trip. Paint the picture.
It's Great Dunmow in Essex, where I grew up, and just this little record shop. You know, the old style vinyl shop
where you're sort of leafing through the racks.
Yeah. But they didn't have it. I had to order it.
Oh, so you really wanted this?
Double cringe.
How old are you at the time?
13, 14. I was a late starter. In everything. Absolutely everything.
What was it like then, growing up in Essex?
There, it's all right. A bit boring, as the kids usually say. It's a small town, right on the edge of farmland, so there was plenty of space to go out and create havoc and mayhem and upset farmers. And yes, we used to get into all sorts of spots, and then it was football and going up to London when I was a teenager. And I used to support Spurs, and I used to go up there, not with most of my mates, because all they were interested in was scrapping, it's just sort of skinhead days.
Oh, the football.
Yeah, it's horrendous. And I was a big coward. I didn't like that malarkey at all.
I don't think it's cowardly not to like that, but...
Well, in the headspace of the time, So, and then I went up to a game with a friend of mine who was a West Ham supporter, and we were at the West Ham end at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and we kept getting kicked by the friendlies, as you do, you know, or as you did. And next thing I know, my blooming parka's on fire.
Oh, God.
I'd got set alight. So that was the end of the football. I thought, nah, that's it. And then about a year later, just randomly at Dunmow Carnival, a mate of mine said, "Do you want to come climbing?" Yeah, all right. No idea what I was letting myself in for, except, remember I said about a picture? I scrabbled all week to get some gear together because I had no gear or anything. Borrowed some boots, borrowed a parka that wasn't burnt. I went down to Wales and I'd have been sixth form at that time. And just wandered up onto the carnival, and I couldn't get over after living in Essex where everything's sort of covered with clay and it's just rolly little bumps. Like the rocks were just sticking out. And it just grabbed us. Mm. And then the next day, we went up the hill that was in the picture.
So tell us about the picture, because you told me about the picture, but what's this picture?
Well, it's just this weird print of Tryfan, as I found out later. And it was in this weird bit of furniture in the hallway. And I looked in it one day, pulled this out. Oh, and I recognised it from when we used to drive up to Holyhead to get on the ferry to Ireland. I said to my dad, we'll have to stop off and go up this mountain on the way. And this I'd have been about 13 or 14 at the time, so it was years later before it took root. And, so anyway, my dad turned around and he's usually, "I'm stupid, boy." And anyway, so it didn't happen until that weekend, 3 or 4 years later, when we wandered up the North Ridge. So it was a proper scramble, got on top, blowing a bit of a hoolie, dropped down the other side, went up, started to go up Bristly Ridge, and we were perched up on this lump of rock, having a bit of a butty, because we were with this sort of older Welsh guy. And he sort of said, "Right, time for a sound mountaineering decision. I think the conditions are too bad. We'll have to head down after we've had some lunch," which was fine. And I just remember sat there and just the clouds coming up at me. Yeah, the bones of the earth sticking out the day before and these clouds coming up at me. It's hard to describe it, just, when something grabs you and something kind of gets hold of you.
So they're sort of 13, seeing that picture of this hill, asking your dad,
"Yeah, and been
could we go in?"
Soundly rebuffed.
So tell us about your dad then. Why was that his response? What was sort of his?
Well, he, hard-working Irish guy that came over after the war, worked his nuts off, absolute grafter till he was 80, till he did his back heaving paving stones around when he was 80.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, an absolute grafter. So he, so life had to be very practical for him, but he was desperate for us to, make use of schooling, because nobody in the family, there were 10 of them. They grew up on a little tiny
siblings, 10.
Yeah, and they grew up on a little 2-room farmhouse in Cavan in Ireland, and some interesting tales.
How do you think his upbringing then shaped him being a dad? You mentioned the importance of education. What else?
He was very thoughtful about people. Real hard work. Every second word was an F. He was pretty full on, but a good dad, very, very good dad. And when my mum died, when I was 21, the rest of the kids were at home because I was the oldest. There were 5 of us. He had to sort of take on the mum role, and despite being this sort of hard-nosed builder's labourer, he took it on, and he tapped into my auntie or various aunties that were around at the time, and took on the mum role as well. Yeah, it's remarkable.
So how you were the eldest at 21 when your mum died. How old was your youngest?
God, it's 7, 8. They're about 9 years between us, so there'd have been about 12. Una would. Yeah, so very young, very impressionable. And it was the youngest 3 were at home when my mum collapsed. I got the word, 4 o'clock in the morning up in college, and sort of running around like a headless chicken, hopping over the fence at Durham Station and hoping a train would stop. Mad.
So what had happened, if you don't mind me asking that?
Just cerebral hemorrhage. Yeah,
So
high blood pressure for many years. Very, unhealthy lifestyle, basically. Lots of work, lots of stress. 5 kids that weren't the most cooperative kids on the planet. Yeah, so that was a bit of a shocker.
How did that affect you?
Hard to tell. For a long time, pretty insulated against it, I suppose, in some ways, or just fending it off.
Keeping it, yeah.
No, it still catches up. Yeah, be nice if she'd ever got to see her kids grow up. That would have been really, really nice, but sadly, never happened. But at least my dad got to see his grandkids.
Yeah. So what was she like? Was your mum
just,
like?
hard-working mum, just grafted. I can remember baths in the sink.
Yeah.
Twin tub washing machines, a scrubbing board, She grafted at home, yeah. Really hard. She'd come over from Ireland before my dad had.
So they met here?
They actually met in Ireland.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, one of the many dances in Longford, because my dad was a furniture, like a French polisher, first of all, when he was in Ireland. And then came over here, got some French polishing work in Coventry, and then eventually he was working the fields around Essex and Suffolk. So we were in a caravan, tootling around the countryside on farms and whatnot. But I haven't got much memory of that.
Of that part?
No. And then we ended up in a caravan site, and I think it's virtually on the site of Stansted Airport's terminal. So earliest memories are a hedge, a fence, the runway, and American jets buzzing backwards and forwards. They're the first sort of memories I've got.
That you've got?
Yeah. Weird. So that was where the obsession to be a pilot came in. I even went to the interviews at Biggin Hill.
Did you?
Yeah. Utter miserable failure.
So that early childhood memory had stuck with you. What was it about seeing those planes then?
I was just fascinated by planes, and went to school and science, chemistry, physics. Just got slightly obsessed with the science of it, of how something that big stays up in the sky, And I thought, I'm into this. Went up to Biggin Hill. My God. Even in the days before IT, the information processing that they were putting you through was just staggering. I was so far out of my depth. Out of 50 people, 2 got chosen for further interviews. And, that was only the second stage of selection. So anyway, that was a turning point. That was that's right. That's a dead end, lad.
And did you just left? That was it. Yeah, you left that behind. Yeah.
And then the climbing thing sort of came in then, and
so let's so there's this this opportunity to go out to the Welsh hills suddenly crosses your path? Because I'm really interested in how these turning points come about.
It was just totally random. Somebody said, do you want to go climbing? And why not? And also, it was a getting away from that whole football hooligan atmosphere, I think, was in the back of my mind. We went away. We slept in a barn. Was it Little Willie's in Ogwen? Can't remember. Got taken to the Pennygorid Hotel where they were pouring beer out of jugs and got absolutely bladdered because they said Catholics can't drink Cassidy. So I said, yes, we can. Glug, glug. Oh, my God. Wasn't pretty. It was not pretty.
And they got up the next day and walked up the hill.
Yeah.
And had you walked up a hill before at this point? No. So
it was messy. Second time out, we were on Snowdon and I got hypothermia because obviously
second time ever up a hill.
Second weekend.
Second weekend.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But on top of Snowdon, there's a cafe, so Bob dragged us in there and filled us up with tea. Right, he's all right now, we can go out again. It was good. Excellent fun.
Right, let's just pause there for a moment because for a lot of people, going up a hill on the second ever weekend and getting hypothermia would be the point they go, this is not for me. Yeah, you...
Yeah, I am a bit weird.
Well, no, I'm not saying that.
No, I am. Well, it's obviously mild hypothermia, but I was... You were,
yeah.
I was out of it
Probably not in the best gear in the world.
Put it mildly. Still in that borrowed parka, which is about as waterproof as blotting paper. Because I know, some of your escapades that we can get into to come, but that's a moment there, isn't it, where you were, I don't know, would you just describe it as falling in love with something? You were hooked by definitely, something that was going to be a huge part of your life. What was it? What happened? Well, we got down and it was great.
It
just felt good. It's as simple as that. There's nothing fancy about it. It just felt good. I was weak. I was absolutely knackered. But like I am now. No, I don't know. Just loved it. And then we were out in some valley in Wales, in mid-Wales, with this Bob Maslin-Jones guy. And I was just messing about on some rocks, and he said, you should get into rock climbing. Oh, how do you do that? So the following summer I went off on a course, met all these guys that are into climbing, got taught, scared the crap out of me, really did. But it, don't know, just got hold of us. There's no rhyme or reason to it, because I was a right wimp. It just, I don't know, there was something about the movement over rock that was even better than just walking over the hills, solving problems. I mean, like even as recently as last week, we were out at Keyfoot Buttress, and there's a route there called Irony. You get to this overhang, and every time I've been up it, I've made an absolute palaver of getting over this overhang. And then on Tuesday, right, I'm going to do it neatly this time. And your protection is this peg piton that's banged into a crack in the overhang. It's at least 50 years old. And you look at it and you think, But anyway, but this time went up, and I just found the sequence somehow that I'd never clocked before. And it was just this stupid thing of walking your feet up, further up leftwards. And like the physics worked. The physics teacher kicks in, you see. And, and I got the hold and did it neatly. And like, little things that keep me happy. This is how I find joy.
Just a quick pause. At Reflective Rebels, I'm on a mission to spread joy. I create these podcast conversations because I think we're all hungry for something real. Not advice, not quick fixes, just honest, human stories that remind us we're not alone in the mess. If this conversation is making you feel something, would you help me grow the rebellion and share it with just one person who might need to hear it? Maybe someone who's also tired of pretending everything's fine. Because every person who finds these stories makes this little rebellion against perfectionism and exhaustion a little bit stronger. Back to our conversation. Let's try and parallel this story then. So we've got this thread of climbing, which has been there from, well, that picture at the age of 13, just sat on this sofa now and you're out last Tuesday night. So that's been a constant. What happens next? Well, you're sort of doing this, you're learning how to climb in Wales one summer, but what else is happening in the meantime?
And then shortly after that, I started buying climbing magazines and, getting fully immersed. And what was I doing at the time? I think I was back working on buildings again. And then
working on buildings? What do you mean?
Labouring.
Labour, so yeah.
And I saw an advert for an outdoor education course. 3 years, back in the days of grants, very professional outlook.
To learn how to become an outdoor
instructor.
Instructor.
Yeah, outdoor educator, an outdoor teacher. So I went up to Durham to Bede College and did this outdoor ed course and got into canoeing, skiing and caving as well. And, suddenly 3 years later, I'm a teacher. What? Okay. So I started putting in for jobs in the outdoors. So I ended up with a summer job down in Wales. There's a village called Fairbourne, and it will probably be the first village lost to the sea due to sea level rise. Doesn't look like they can save it. So there was a centre there. That was a mad summer. That was crazy. Such good fun. But we were paid the princely sum of £18.50 a week, paid monthly to make it like a professional salary. But the crack was fierce. It was fantastic. But it was a bit unsatisfying somehow, so I thought, right, I'm going to have to take this teaching seriously. So I went back to college at York, did a year there, retrained to teach science, which still, I'm still fascinated by the sciencey stuff. And
so, what wasn't satisfying you to go down that route? What changed in that job to go right? I want it's something different. I kind of
wanted to kind of keep the outdoor stuff for playtime and have a proper job, get married and have a family and all that stuff, which dirtbagging around centres didn't seem to offer much possibility of. So that was my muddled thinking. So went down to York, did a year's retraining, ended up in Carlisle teaching science for about 7 years, and then was still twitching for the outdoors, so I managed to blag me way into a job with Cumbria Outdoors set up. Had that for 4 years, and that was just fantastic. That was the best spell of my life, I would say, in terms of work and play. And we did some really good stuff. I was never very innovative with stuff, so I was always following along. But what a good crack and what good people we had.
What were you doing? What was a day
just
like? What were you
caving? You take all these young kids out and do all sorts of daftness. There were things like the Fellside Splat. So if we took them gill scrambling up Hay Gill, we'd get into basically one of these sort of bog things, and there's the Fellside Splat. Just test it, kids. So they're going up to their waist in this mud and goo. The kids had a fantastic
I was going to
time.
say, what was it doing for those kids? What do you think that?
And a lot of them, you know, they just didn't do outdoor stuff. They didn't get their hands dirty, you know, but they got out there and they just messed about and they just cut loose like kids should. Oh, it was fantastic. You know, remember one time we took a group out and this one little quiet kid really sort of came out as like the boss suddenly, you know, from being this absolute mouse. She sort of really pulled out this leadership. I always remember her because I bumped into her one night serving behind the bar at one of the folk clubs I used to go to. So that was really nice to see her.
How does it feel to be leaving that kind of legacy and imprint on people's lives?
Well, I just hope it's mostly positive. I know for some kids it wouldn't have been, because particularly after the incidents at one school, the first primary school I taught at, I was a bit...
So what happened?
Oh, gang attack on the school. Local yobbos came in and basically... what happened was there was a ball went over, bunch of yobs outside, and they kicked the ball away. And like an idiot, I just stepped outside the gate and said, "So the ball back, please, lads." Where's it gone? Come on, you've had your fun. Then I realised I was surrounded. Thought, oh, this ain't healthy. And I managed to wiggle my way back in the gate, get the gates. I'd got the kids to move away. And break ended, registered the kids, got them changed for games as they were having then. There were 2 kids left behind in the hut. I had a hut separate from the main building and went out on the field for games. And while I'm getting these kids warmed up, I see 2 figures running through the gate. I said, "Right, kids, stay here." And I legged it down in through a middle door, down the corridor to see what was going on. And a lady was there. She was coming in. She was the incoming, or the about to be incoming new headmistress. And she said, "Right, don't go out there. They're after you." I said, "What?" Looked out the door, and there was 2 yobbos up on the steps. And they were having the caretaker had gone out and they were laying into him, and then one of them just raised his fists and started laying into this fella who'd have been in his 50s. And I thought, you know, I had no clue what to do. And I stepped out, I said, "Oi, I'm over here." And I'm just frozen then. I'm just thinking, what the hell's going to happen here? Anyway, so they came over, got a bit verbal, and then one of them sort of smacked me around the head. And that kind of woke me up. And I remember grabbing one of them. And when I was 12, I did judo. And I did a perfect, I think it's an osotogari. And he went over me hip, and a Coke can or something exploded on the wall beside me. I turned around, there's half a dozen of them. And they just, they all sort of just piled in on us. And then the staff all came down the corridor, and these yobs just jumped on all these female teachers as well. That's pretty grim. So that happened, and then it unhappened almost as quickly, and they went out and, "Cassidy, come out here and fight," you know. I'm thinking, and I've lost it by then. But then the voice of the head, Ray, the kids, and the kids up the end were all right. But it turned out these 2 lads had laid into the 2 kids that were ill in the hut. One of them had got kicked, one of them had been punched by these jobs. And anyway, the aftermath of that, I was a bit wobbly, shall we say.
Absolutely.
And when I was made redundant after that, as it turned out. And then in the next job I had, I could fly off the handle. It wasn't good sometimes. So, yeah, that was an interesting spell.
You said a bit wobbly.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to answer this, but what does that mean?
Oh, when are these guys going to turn up again? So yeah, a bit hairy, but for years I was that wound up. I could, and the kids got the worst of it sometimes. Interesting times. But I'm better now. Aye.
So let's weave back then, because we're going to weave. I feel we're weaving between the two things. Where's climbing? And the hills and so what's?
Oh, the timing of the incident and my redundancy was perfect as well, because I was married at the time and Sheila had just announced that she was pregnant. Sheila was my ex-wife, and things looked pretty good. But I was still managing to get out climbing and do bits, but it was obviously fairly low key. I mean, I was still climbing at a very good standard, but it was irregularly. Yeah, because obviously more important things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
What does interesting mean? You've used that word twice now. What do you mean it was interesting?
As in challenging.
Fucking hard.
Yeah. It was for my little brain, yeah. Yeah, it was quite a spell of uncertainty there. But, we got through it and got a job and back on track, and we weren't going to lose the house anymore. So that was good. And then, just potted on, climbing, teaching, getting kids out from school, doing a little bit of freelancing, still in the outdoors at weekends and during the holidays sometimes.
Mm.
Yeah, good. Life was good.
Life was good. That sounds really hard. Really hard.
Mm.
It sounds very brave to see that man being attacked and to know they were asking your name and to step outside that door. I know, I can see, the listeners can't see your face. You're already sort of dismissing that. But
no, I'm not dismissing it at all, but it wasn't brave. I just didn't know what to do. You couldn't just let them lay into him.
Mm.
But
and I read your story recently that you wrote about your trip to Peru, which is
that was definitely a high point. Yeah,
a high point as well. But I mean, in terms of, now I'm going to say you're one of the bravest people I know, and mean that genuinely. And when I read that story, which I didn't know of, I was really taken aback by the adventure you'd been on. And do you want to tell us a bit about?
I could go on
that
for hours.
Crazy trip. Well, we haven't got hours. We'll do another series. But it was mind-blowing. Genuinely, reading that story was a mind-blowing story.
I find it hard to understand that it would be, but back then, this would be 1982, I would say. One of the lads had the idea. He wanted to go off to Peru and climb the most beautiful mountain in the world, Alpamayo. And I'll have some of that.
There seems to be a theme here where you see a thing and you go, do you know what, I'm in.
It just seemed like a good wheeze, So there were 6 of us. There was Dave, who'd come up with the idea, Rob, who was me best man, and, a mate from college, as was Dave. And then there was another lad, Steve, and there were 2 ladies, Dave's wife, Carolyn, and another lady, Jill. And the ladies were going to go off trekking. That was what they fancied doing. And we were going to, well, the big ambition was to try and do Nevado Kayesh, which it'd only been climbed once ever by a ridge, and we were going to tackle this big face. So our acclimatisation walk, we walked up this big valley for 2 days, took one look and thought, "Kin hell, I'm doing that." Well, I ain't that brave. It was 5 or 6 years before that got done. But anyway, we went up country to Caraz, the next big town from Huaraz, and walked in for another couple of days to a base camp to do our training climb, which was supposed to be Alpamayo. And to get to it, we messing about in the camp, getting it a bit comfy for a couple of days, wandering about, exploring the area. And once we're sorted, we make a foray up this glacier. And it's all very scary like, but nothing happened, so all good. But then we were so slow, so poorly acclimatised, we didn't manage to get over this ridge to the next glacier. So we dug a snow hole at the base of this ridge and had a pretty comfy night, really. It was perfect. But the next morning, Steve, the altitude was absolutely killing him.
Right. So how high are you at this point?
16,000 feet, I suppose.
And for people who don't know, what does that sort of mean?
Means you're gasping a bit. We were pretty fit then. We were very fit, but we weren't exceptional, like some of these top guys that you see. And then next morning we went up and dropped over the ridge. You had to climb it with a rope, and then you've got to get about best part of a mile across this glacier. And we set off across it. And once we left the ridge, it had been snowing, and the powder snow just got deeper and deeper till we're up to our chests in it, and sort of just trying to plough our way. And after about 4 hours, we'd only got about 400 yards, and we were knackered. Just absolutely exhausted. So we went back, dropped down. Steve, what are you doing back here? Back down to base camp with our tail between our legs. And had a bit of a sulk down there as well. And so we had a day's rest. And then I'd noticed there was this big sort of wall that looked a bit like Craigmeggy in Scotland, but, probably 2 or 3 times as big. We were sort of looking at it through this afternoon, and this bloody enormous avalanche cut loose and just came right down this face. We was, no, I ain't doing that. Right, back to plan B. And so give it a couple of days, and we managed to get over into the basin in Awana. But we couldn't find, the snow had consolidated a lot by then. We couldn't find a place to dig a snow hole there. And we dug a snow grave, so just a bit of a pit to keep the wind off us. But what a night that was, because that high up, the sky is just, the stars are just something else. You kind of get that background music in alien films, where it's almost, and this is 20 years before Alien was even on the scene, where it felt like that. So that was fantastic. And next morning we sort of flogged our way across to the Bergschrund, and we knew we were going to have to make another snow hole. So we spent the afternoon digging that out, and I was feeling quite pleased with myself. And then I think it was Dave, he stood up and knocked half the roof in. And so I started cutting snow blocks and doing the igloo thing to patch it up. And the other 2 lads got in the snow hole, and I stuck my head in. They got the comfy spots away from the entrance. I got in, got shuffled in, and as I shuffled my bum round, the back wall of this flipping snow hole fell into the bloody Bergschrund. So I've got my arse hanging over this 100 and whatever foot drop, trying not to roll over in the night.
Oh, you slept knowing there was a 100-foot drop right there.
Well, you had nowhere else to go.
See, this is when I said brave. This is like...
It's not brave, it's just daft. But, you know, in them days we were trying to be gnarly, like it mattered. And then, anyway, next day we got up, had a brew of... I think we were living on porridge and complan. That was our rations. So anyway, we had a bowl of this gloop and then set off, and you had to kind of go pitch by pitch. And I'm climbing, and all of a sudden, I don't know what's happened. There's this blue cold in front of me, and I have no clue where I am. I had no clue. The idea I was on top of a London bus, an open-top bus, came into my head. And then I realised I'm hanging on for 2 ice axes and better not fall off, boy. And that was a real wobble moment.
Yeah. Do you think that was the altitude? Or
I'm not sure, but I think I had a petit mal epilepsy thing. And it was altitude, yes, definitely.
At what height? And so high? Where?
We're about 19,000 foot then. And anyway, get deep breaths. And I managed to sort of skittle off to a bit of a place where I could get more of a foothold, and got a belay built. And I sort of said to the lads, I said, "Oh, just watch out, lads, because I think I've had a seizure or something." And anyway, they said afterwards that pretty much spooked them. But anyway, we carried on, a couple of pitches. In fact, the next pitch, Dave and Rob both shouted and said, "Right, don't look up, Ray, don't look up." So of course you look up, and there's a leg sticking out the snow.
Oh, God.
So, and we knew there was a body around, but we thought it was at the bottom of the face. Somebody had come to grief. There's no rescue there. You're on your own. So it was, you've got to be careful. So anyway, carried on up. And there's all these Mr. Whippy things where the flutings on these Andean peaks, they're quite incredible shapes because they get dolloped with such huge amounts of snow that all collapses and it leaves all these incredible shapes, absolutely stunning, but so collapsible. Yeah, they could take you out just like that. So it was like swimming almost vertically up this groove of choss, and eventually sort of flops over on the top. So that was interesting because as you're going up, you're thinking, what the hell are we going to abseil off? Anyway, we found something, got down, landed virtually on the roof of the snow hole. So got into the snow hole, snuggled down. I managed to get the good end this time. And next morning we got back down to Steve in base camp, and we realised that we had 6 days left, I think, before our arriero. The donkey man came up with us because we had to hire donkeys to carry some of our kit. And we had hardly any grub left. And I don't think any of us had the energy to do anything else. So we put everything we had left on our backs, our fronts and in our hands or whatever, and staggered off down. And that was...
and walked out.
But we got about halfway down into the valley, and this trekking group came along, and we had a good crack with them. And they disappeared with all their donkeys. We carried on flogging down this valley, absolutely dead on our feet. And then these 2 donkeys and the arrieros came back up, and it was from this trekking group, and they'd sent these lads back to grab some of our gear. And we got down to where they were, and they fed us. Like a chicken dinner. We had to eat in the servants' quarters, which was absolutely fine. Then we sort of joined the trekkers after their meal, and they had whiskey and all sorts. It was
Brilliant.
great, good crack. And then we got down as well to the Cachapampa, the village at the bottom, and they even give us a lift out on the lorry.
So most of us haven't done anything anywhere near like that ever in our lives. So for you, yes, it's part of your normal story. But what does that give you as a human to have done an adventure quite like that?
A sense of satisfaction that we survived despite all the cock-ups that we did along the way. I don't know. It's a memory. It's just something big we did. I was so far out of my comfort zone. It was untrue. I even briefed me middle brother on what to do if I didn't come home, because I thought, this could easily kind of catch you out. And but I want to do one of these big jet set mountaineers, but far too wimpy for that.
Wimpy, yeah. What about now then? So how are you making those memories now? What does joy mean now?
It's still the same things, but it's stuff like seeing Ben and Jess performing, or still having a good crack with their mum.
So Ben and Jess,
my kids, they're adults now. I mean, they're sort of around the 30 mark, and Ben's found his voice for singing and performing. Super talented lad on that front, but very quiet and modest. And Jess just loves singing and performing anyway. Very good actress when she's got time. Yeah, so that's really good fun, seeing them. And tomorrow I'll probably get out for a stroll with Jess, somewhere in the lakes. And, just nice seeing them do stuff and live their lives. Well, I suspect I'll be about 110 before I'm a granddad.
What's next then? What's next for this?
Well, immediately next is another trip to Pembroke climbing next week, so that'll be good. Try and turn my business into a business. That there's no hint of obsession in the brand name, of course.
What's the brand name?
Climb High SEO. Because it's good to be on top of summits and searches. Which is true, but very glib. Yeah, so bit of Pembroke next week on the rock if this storm doesn't whip up the ocean to a frenzy. And then winter climbing. With a bit of luck if I can still lift the ice axes above my head. Because I'm getting very old and weak now. But that would be nice. And then, just chug along until I can't chug anymore. And then try and misbehave in different ways.
If you could go back then to that 13-year-old who's got the painting in his hands, what would you say?
Yeah, do it. Get up there. Get up there, lad. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's very, very simple. Yeah, there's nothing sophisticated about it or fancy. It's just get out there and do something. Get your hands dirty. Bang your head on the wall. Smack your knuckles in the rock. Twang your tendons. Wear yourself ragged. It's good. And it's so many people so insulated from, insulated from like the wind, the rain, just having a hummingbird moth whiz by you out the blue. They don't see it, and it's so important for your head. That's probably the only lesson I can give. Because you just got to get out there and feel a bit of nature. Get away from all this comfort and material bollocks, basically. That's it. So I do apologise for rambling on like an old farce.
I don't think you've rambled, but I think that's the perfect lesson to end on. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Right. Let's go play in the hills.
Jolly good. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
So good.
Thanks very much. It's been amazing. Thank you for listening. If this conversation stirred something in you, I hope you feel you're not alone. Sometimes hearing someone else's story can help us see our own more clearly. Please support the telling of these stories by following or subscribing wherever you're listening to your podcasts. You can visit reflectiverebels.co.uk/newsletter to sign up for honest insights, podcast updates, and events for exhausted humans. And if you're ready for change in your own story, if you want to move from coping to clarity, from performing to living, then drop me an email about coaching. Because we're done pretending everything's fine. We want more than coping. We want a life that feels like ours. Your story isn't over yet. I'm Ben, and this has been We're Done Pretending, a Reflective Rebels podcast.